How's it going, everybody? And welcome to Ask Me Anything About Politics. So, if you got a question about politics, let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. There is no such thing as a dumb question, so you don't got to worry about getting judged or ridiculed for any question that you might ask. I am just here to answer all of your good faith questions about politics, and there's no judgments, there's no roasting, there's no debating. I don't care if you who you voted for. I don't care if you didn't vote. I don't care. What's up, you sir? Need more coffee? Good to see you as well. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care if you didn't vote. I don't care if you're further to the left than me, further to the right than me. I am just here to answer all good faith questions about politics. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you don't know too much about it, and it can be really difficult to try and learn. It's a little bit like trying to learn a new language where there's all these acronyms and abbreviations, and people call each other by their last names exclusively, and you're not really sure what somebody's job is to do X, Y, or Z. And, I remember when I didn't know anything about politics, and I was always really, nervous about asking questions because I didn't want to seem dumb, and I wasn't sure what was common knowledge and what were the things that were understandable for me to not know. And so I like to make myself available here to answer all of your questions about politics. And, there's not going to be any roasting or debating, or I'm not going to yell at you about your question. Sometimes people will be like, if I ask this, he's going to think I'm some sort of squishy cuck libtard. Or if I ask this, he's going to think I'm some sort of MAGA fascist lunatic. There's not going to be any of that judgments here. Sometimes I get a little spicy. People are spicy back at me. But on the whole, if you ask a question in good faith, I will answer in good faith. All right, Benjamin Gunderson 6 says, "Are you left or right leaning?" I am left leaning. Party Source 12 says, "Knowledge Party, yay, hi, thoughts on defunding NPR and PBS?" I do have thoughts about that, Party Source. Plant says, "What do you think of students getting deported?" I think it's monstrous. Those are two things that we're going to talk about. All right, so on defunding NPR and PBS, this is part of what authoritarian fascist governments like to do. They need there to be non-objective, no non-objective news sources. So they only want to embolden the kind of news sources that are going to give them the kind of unwavering and unquestioned praise that they are used to by networks like Fox News or Breitbart or OAN or fucking, influencers who are being paid to trumpet what they're saying, like Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk and Tim Pool and shit like that. So any independent news agency is a threat to the Trump administration. And so they will defund them, they will threaten them with lawsuits, they will try to change libel laws to make it so that these news organizations are scared to report on the truth of what the Trump administration is doing. You're seeing that with the Associated Press is still being kicked out of, the press briefing room. And that is all because they refused to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. And so the Trump administration is trying to put pressure on them. There's like scare tactics that they'll do to, like, they'll be really harsh about something really small in order to make you question whether you should do X, Y, or Z. Like, oh, should I tweet this thing about how I don't like that my uncle got fired from his government job? Like, he's a veteran with PTSD. Like, surely he should be able to keep his job, or at least be able to go to the VA to get some, psychiatric care, but they defunded that as well. Now maybe you're too scared to put that in there because you're worried about getting deported to an El Salvadorian concentration camp. So that is the question about NPR and PBS. Thank you, Party Source. And the question about Plant, about students getting deported, it's a similar thing. Like, they are ICE, and the immigration enforcement that is happening in America right now is very loosey-goosey. Like, they don't really give a shit about due process or people's civil rights or human rights or anything like that. They are just picking up people and either deporting them or detaining them or sending them to a fucking concentration camp in El Salvador. It is wildly illegal, wildly unconstitutional, morally bankrupt, unconscionable. And it's a scare tactic, The guy who's running all these deportations, this guy Tim Homan, He said that he called them collateral deportations or something like that, where if you are a legal citizen and you're standing next to somebody, they'll just round you up also. And it's terrifying, it's infuriating. Like, we all should be fucking talking about this. That there are innocent American citizens sitting in an El Salvadorian concentration camp that is notorious for starving and beating their prisoners. These people we were not given any evidence that these people have done any kind of crime or were part of some gang. ICE just picked them up and shipped them away. And then when a judge said stop, they literally didn't. And if you can't, acknowledge that is wrong, that if you just got deported to a fucking El Salvadorian concentration camp, that you wouldn't like that, like, I don't know what we're even fucking doing here, All right, scrolling down to the very bottom. Jay says, while you're sitting there in the free America that I fought for, bro, do something better. I don't know what it is that you are... like, the thing you just said had zero substance, Jay. Like, what are you talking about? You, sir, need more coffee says, would your comedy show ever coming to Texas? I would love to go and support your show. Yeah, I've definitely toured in Texas before. I don't have any Texas dates coming up. But I think I was just in Texas maybe in October or something like that. I forget. But yeah, check my website. My dates will always be on my website. Jay, you're not asking questions. I don't know if you are aware of the fact that you are just spamming the comments. Potsy says, rogue judges will be ignored completely moving forward. Who's a rogue judge, Potsy? It doesn't seem like, it seems like what you are saying is that any judge that goes against Trump is a rogue judge. And I would hope that you would recognize how dangerous that attitude is. That you can just, ignore what a judge says because they didn't do the thing that you wanted them to do. Alexikiki says, I'm not really involved in politics, although I should. What's Trump Department of Education thing about? What's he doing? So the Department of Education is responsible for providing funds to public education for disenfranchised groups of people. So you got people from really poor neighborhoods, people who English is not their first language, children with disabilities. Like, that is the main purview of the Department of Education, making sure that those programs are funded so that those kids can also get an education. And Trump is defunding that or trying to close that down because his ethos and the ethos of the Republican Party is that only the strong survive, and it's every man and woman for themselves. They don't give a shit. They don't care if a kid from a poor neighborhood can't get a good education. They don't care if a kid in a wheelchair can't even get into the fucking building of the school he's supposed to be going to. The suffering is the point. The cruelty is the point with these guys. Thank you for your question, Alexikiki. Let's see here. Don Kedick says the states are more than capable of handling those programs for their own citizens. That's not true at all. They don't have the money. Cowsmix says any teacher will tell you Department of Education was trash. That is also inaccurate. Jay-Z says, UBI, a good idea or not? I love the idea of universal basic income. That's what UBI stands for anybody who is in the chat was not aware of that. Universal basic income would basically just be a dividend that we get as American citizens every month. And it can be, any amount of money from like $50 a month to, $1,500 a month, depending on, how much we are able to give to our citizens to make sure that they are able to afford housing and food and medication costs and stuff like that. We are quickly moving towards a world in which there are fewer jobs available because of artificial intelligence and mechanization. I don't know if you guys have seen any of these fucking robots that are coming out of Boston Dynamics. They're cool as shit, but it does mean that there will be fewer jobs available for American citizens. And so in lieu of just having American citizens have to file a bunch of paperwork and join a bunch of programs, people have suggested that these companies that are so unbelievably fucking profitable from artificial intelligence and from mechanization, as they are firing their workers, what are we going to do with all those American citizens? You guys should pay higher taxes, and then we can just give that money to American citizens so that we don't have them fucking dying on the streets in homeless encampments and shit like that. All right, this guy's getting blocked because he is not saying anything substantive. Stephanie B says, "What do you think will come of Signalgate?" That's an open question, Stephanie B. So the issue is, am I glitching out for anybody on the live stream? I don't know if anybody can see what I'm seeing. Let me know if I am looking weird or bad to you guys. Partysaurus says yes. Yeah, I'm gonna have to restart on TikTok. Everybody, I apologize. I will be right back. Here we go. So I hope we got some people watching on Twitch and YouTube. I apologize for having to just dip out of the live stream to fix that technical issue. But if you got any questions that you want to answer about politics, let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. Looks like we got one viewer on each. Thank you for being here. One viewer on each. I appreciate you. Yeah, since most of my questions come from TikTok, when I get booted off of TikTok for technical issues, it is always an issue. Yeah, this is gonna take a minute because I gotta close the program and unplug and replug in my camera. I don't know why this fucking happens sometimes. I gotta get a new camera or some shit like that. Okay, let's try this again. All right, so yeah, if you're watching on Twitch, if you're watching on YouTube, and you got any questions that you want answered about politics, just let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. There's no judgments, there's no debating, there's no roasting. I am just here to answer all of your good faith questions about politics. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you don't know too much about it, and so I like to make myself available to people, and there's no judgments, there's no roasting, there's no debating. I am not here to yell at you for the way that you voted or did not vote. I am just here to answer your questions. There's no roasting, there's no judgments, there's no debating. I'm not here to yell at you or get mad at you or anything like that. I am just here to answer all good faith questions about politics. We are almost back up on TikTok, and now we will soon have questions again. Here we go. Okay, everybody, we are back. We are back on TikTok, and it is time for Ask Me Anything About Politics. If I am hoping that we get some of our crowd back, because everybody was asking great questions, and I just, we had a little technical difficulties there. Tyro, good to see you again. Thank you for being here. So yeah, if anybody's got any questions about politics, let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. There's no roasting, there's no debates. I'm not here to yell at you based on who you voted for or who you did not vote for. Stephanie B. Hi, I am back, still wondering about Signalgate. Singlegate almost sounds like you're kicking it to me, so don't do that. I'm married, but that is funny. Stephanie B. So yeah, Signalgate, it's an unbelievable fuck up, and anybody trying to tell you that Signalgate is not an unbelievable fuck up is lying to you. Because there's two problems with it. Number one, there is the issue of them discussing government issues on a device that is meant to keep that information from the American people. Like Signal is an encrypted app that automatically deletes messages after a certain period of time. And so they specifically engineered that practice of using Signal on their personal phones as a way of keeping that information out of the presidential records. Everything that they do in the government is supposed to be chronicled for the history and for accountability purposes. So them even using Signal is a massive red flag. Like, what are they trying to keep from us? What are they hiding from us? Why are they being so non-transparent? I thought this was supposed to be a transparent presidency. Like, what the fuck, guys? What's going on? That's number one. Number two is, because they were using their personal phones, and one of them was using his personal phone in Russia, all of that information could have potentially been seen by adversarial nations like Iran or North Korea or Russia and shit like that. They will tell you, if you work for the government, you're not even allowed to bring your phone into a country of adversarial, nature. So they give everybody who works for the government a burner phone anytime they go to Russia or Iran or whatever. And yet these guys were just using their personal phones in Russia and discussing sensitive government data on these phones that were obviously 100% being looked at by, the KGB and Mossad potentially, So, yeah, it's an unbelievable fuck up, and it is demonstrative both of their incompetence and their desire to keep what they are doing hidden from the American public, which should concern everybody. Monty says, do we actually need to annex Canada and Greenland? No, we do not. It is dumb that he is trying to do that. Let's see here. Signalgate, 70B. I am married to Singlegate. Yeah, Big Mac says, why did the media cover up Israelgate and spin it as Russiagate? Big Mac, I don't know if what you're saying is accurate. I would encourage you to get your news from a different source. AJ Morant says, where do you see our country within the next 6 months? That's an open question, AJ, because if people do the work of stopping this administration, then we can get our country back and we can start rebuilding. We've got special elections coming up in Wisconsin, in New York, in Florida. And if Democrats win those elections, then Republicans will start actually thinking that there will be consequences for just following Donald Trump down this rabbit hole into the garbage fire. So yeah, if people do the work of putting pressure on their elected representatives, getting people to vote for Democrats, boycotting, striking, protesting, pulling all the levers of power that we have as citizens, then we stop this authoritarian slide into disaster in its tracks. If people don't do that, then we just continue sliding down into authoritarianism. Anybody who says anything negative about the Trump administration could be fucking disappeared into an El Salvadorian concentration camp that is notorious for beating and starving their prisoners. Massive human rights violations, illegal activity, grift, and corruption, the likes of which we have never seen. The country will look like Russia if people don't do anything. And when I say people, I mean you and me. Like, we have to do the work because there is no organization that has the ability to save us in this moment except for individual citizens all working together. Together, we can combat this. Individually, we cannot. Let's see here. AJ Morant says, listening, your expertise is a little relief and gives me a little hope. I'm glad for that, AJ, but I'm also hoping to light a fire under everybody's ass because we all got to start doing shit. We all got to start doing the work of convincing people and organizing and protesting. Like, we should be in the streets about all these people that have been deported to that El Salvadorian concentration camp. We should be in the streets for ICE just rounding up people who are veterans or citizens. We should all be in the street because they are cutting government funding for programs that we all need. Like, they are kneecapping Social Security. They're defunding Medicare and Medicaid. Like, this is a big fucking deal what's going on right now. They're attacking, journalists. It is unfucking believable, man. Do we want to be living in Russia where Vladimir Putin can just murder anybody that disagrees with him? Like, that doesn't seem like a good country that I would want to be a part of. Benjamin Undergunson's Social Security is a scam. That's not a question. I don't care if you have a different opinion than me, if you are different politically than me, but ask a question. Be part of the conversation. If you are just spamming the comments with pro-Republican Trump propaganda, then you get out of here. Omid F says, what do you think about the Iranian nuclear program? So it is a concern that an adversarial nation would be able to get weapons of mass destruction, which is why during the Obama administration, we negotiated a peace deal with Iran that was intended to slow or stop their development of nuclear weapons. During the first Trump administration, Trump threw that agreement into the garbage, and so Iran just started accelerating their nuclear weapons program once again. The Biden administration was in the middle of negotiating a return to that deal, but Iran was not really interested because they were like, well, as soon as Trump gets back into office, potentially, you're just going to throw that deal in the garbage again. So they were playing hardball. And then Trump got back into office, and so now Iran just gets to continue building their nuclear weapons with zero abatement, And the only way that this comes to an end is some sort of, further escalated war in the Middle East, which I thought Trump was supposed to bring peace to that area. I'm just as shocked as you guys are. Let's see here. Rick says, why are most congressmen dual citizens? I don't believe that is accurate, Rick. Diamondback says, do you think felons will really get their Second Amendment rights back? I haven't heard anything about that, and it is a weird combination of potential motivations. Like, on the one hand, the Republican Party is fully in the pocket of the gun industry, and so that would mean selling more guns, and they're about that. On the other hand, they are decidedly anti-felon. Even people who have paid their debt to society, they don't give a shit. They're like, yeah, you don't get to be a real citizen anymore. You don't get to vote or get benefits or whatever. You should just fucking go die in a ditch for all we care. So yeah, I'm not really sure where the Republican Party is going to come down on that one, actually. Mick Gregor says, Trump or Kamala? And I find anybody that asks that question to be a little sus, if I'm being honest, Mick Gregor. Because why are you even asking me about Kamala when that race is over? It's like somebody forgot to unplug a bot in Russia. Kimbo says, do you think he's trying to start riots so he can declare martial law? That's one possible avenue, Kimbo. I think that in an ideal world, there would be no riots or protests. Trump would just get to do whatever he wants. He doesn't mind throwing people in jail for protesting or deporting people for protesting or shipping them off to a fucking El Salvadorian concentration camp for protesting. And then he would get to potentially declare martial law if, there's a peaceful protest, but then some fucking MAGA guy in a black mask decides to throw a brick through a window, then everybody's going to look at that and go, see how violent the left is? Look at that. The left is so violent. Then he declares martial law, gets to cancel elections and declare himself president for life. So yeah, there's a lot of ways this can go bad, Yeah, somebody just tried to scare me with a fake violation detection, which is fucking hysterical. All right, let's see here. You need more coffee, says, unless they're Jan Sixers. Completely agree with that. Montana Mam says, especially if they've overstayed their visas. I'm not really sure what point you are trying to make, Montana Mam, but it seems like you might be full of BS. I'm not 100% sure. But if you don't want to get blocked, all you gotta do is ask a question, guys. That is, I do not care if you disagree with me. If you just ask a question, you can stay in the group. Teresia Lynn says, hello. What kind of violations, says Teresia? They did not mention, but it was obviously a lie. Let's see here. David says, being here on a visa is a privilege, not a right. That is true, David, but just because you are here on a visa does not mean that you do not have rights at the same time. So people that are here on a visa still have a right to due process, and they still have freedom of speech. So, it is still illegal that they have been deported or sent to a fucking concentration camp. Let's see here. Garfield says, billionaires are running the country. We the people have to stop them. Completely agree with that, Garfield, but you missed one group of people, and that is Republican politicians. The Republican politicians are working with the billionaire class to turn this country into a Russia-style dictatorship. It is not the Democratic Party. Republicans get way more money from billionaires, and their platform, the Republican platform, fully aligns with the billionaires' wish list of cutting taxes for the top 1% and cutting regulations for all their businesses so they can make more money while at the same time poisoning us, and poisoning our water, poisoning our air, having worse safety regulations so that planes are going to be falling out of the sky even more now, shit like that. And there are more billionaires in Trump's cabinet than in any presidential administration in American history. So there's just more evidence for you guys. Let's see here. Pasky67 says, what are your top 3 sources for unbiased news? So there is no such thing as unbiased news because every human being has bias, regardless of how hard they try to mitigate that bias. There are news sources that are more biased, like intentionally biased. All right-wing media is biased and intentionally biased. Like, they're not even trying to work against the internal biases that they have. So yeah, as far as like getting over, like trying to avoid any kind of bias that you might be ingesting with your media, the goal is to get it from multiple sources, like get some progressive media, some legacy media, some centrist media, some foreign media. You can use a news aggregator site like Ground News or the Reddit news feed. Like, those are all great ways of, working against whatever bias the news organization might have. Holding Pattern says, is it true Trump met with the Soviet Union throughout the 1980s? That has been widely reported. I have not dug into it as much as I would like. But yeah, the thing that you need to keep in mind is, like, you got, what would Trump be doing if he was a Russian asset? It is exactly what he's doing right now. So it doesn't matter if he is or he isn't. He's doing what he would be if he was a Russian asset. Kausmik says, you just said the Reddit newsfeed when Reddit is one of the biggest Democratic echo chambers. It's not, Kausmik. There are plenty of other people on Reddit. Reddit is not a right-wing propaganda cesspool the way that Twitter is, or Facebook is, or YouTube is. So yeah, potentially you are feeling that just because your views are not being echoed, because it's not a right-wing echo chamber, you feel like it's a Democratic echo chamber, but that's not accurate. Let's see here. Teresia Lynn says, what are your thoughts on Trump's attack on ISIS-Iran? I have not seen any information about Trump attacking ISIS in Iran, so I'm not really sure what story you're talking about, Teresa, but thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Sleepy Boy says, are you a Democrat or Republican? I am a Democrat. Do you think that invalidates anything that I have to say? Cosmic says, it 100% is LOL. You don't get banned on X for political views. That is blatantly untrue, Cosmic. And you're not asking questions, so you are out of here. Let's see here. Spike says, what do you think about 10% of the Democratic Party voting with Republicans today on the resolution? I don't know which resolution they are voting on. This is the first time hearing about it, Spike. Can you be more specific? Holding Pattern says, Trump meeting with the Soviets mixed with the Wall Street Journal reporting Elon meeting with Putin. That's interesting. Let's see here. In the Twinch says, what side is more logical, Republicans or Democrats? Democrats, of course. We believe in science. Good to be Jones says, is Elon stepping down from Doge? I have not seen any reporting to suggest that he is. You, sir, need more coffee says, we already have lost 5 soldiers under Trump. His number is 70 members now. Yeah, people forget that there were more service members who died under the Trump administration than the Biden administration. So, there you go. Let's see here. Mason says, how do you feel about Trump? He is one of the biggest pieces of shit that have ever existed. One of the worst presidents in American history. Zia Miruka says, hello. Hello back. How do you feel about the legal cases against Trump? Do you think they're politically motivated? They are not politically motivated, Teresia Lynn. A lot of the crimes that Trump did, he did out in the open. So, we saw that he took, classified documents to Mar-a-Lago and left them in an unsecured location. We saw that he incited the January 6th riot. We saw that he bribed Stormy Daniels to keep quiet about an affair that he had with her before the 2016 election. So, yeah, and we heard the phone call that he had with the Georgia Secretary of State saying, I need you to find me 11,000 votes. So we know that he did the crimes. It is just whether or not we are able to prove it in a court of law. That's what the legal process is for. And thank God he's being given that legal process instead of just being shipped off to a fucking El Salvadorian concentration camp the way that his administration is currently doing to people who are, some of them, very likely innocent of any crime. They have given us zero evidence that these people have done anything illegal or untoward. Free the Weed says, why do you hate America? I don't hate America. I love America. That's why I'm trying to fix it. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm Malaysian, but I'm a little concerned about America. First Tesla, now Amazon. What the fuck is happening? You are right to be concerned, and I am jealous that you are not here at the moment. Let's see here. Real Tony Mac says, Trump low-key good, though. No, he is not low-key good. He is high-key bad. Let's see here. Seventh Story says, remember superdelegates and how they shattered the good timeline in 2016? Yeah, the superdelegates definitely put the finger on the scale for Hillary Clinton, but she also got a lot more votes than Bernie Sanders. And listen, I campaigned for Bernie Sanders. I wanted him to win that primary, but the fact of the matter is that he was always going to lose that primary, regardless of if the DNC helped him or not. Sleepy Boy says, how do you feel about the Democrats wanting to vote out Eliza Slotkin? I don't know if that is accurate. I don't believe that they were planning on voting her. She is just another Trump lackey who is going to do whatever he says, regardless of if it is legal or constitutional or not. I heard that she rescinded her nomination, or it was rescinded or something. I have not heard the motivations for that. I have seen people, hypothesize that it's because Democrats have been doing really good in special elections, and they are worried that those seats in strong red districts are now going to go to Democratic candidates. But I have not double-checked that, so, that is all speculation at this point. Beckpack says, do you think Bernie will have a chance in the next election? He would be my choice currently. Aren't you concerned about how old he is? Again, I love Bernie, but he is an extremely old human being. The Goblin Blix says, but if you could scare them, would help with fearmongers like you. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not a fearmonger. I'm just reporting the news. David Cortizo says, what do you think about our one and true leader, Emperor Palpatine? I don't care for him, and honestly, I think Mace Windu had the right idea. I'm not advocating violence. I was just saying he knew that Palpatine was, he knew that senator was Palpatine. Let's see here. John H. says Trump has the lowest approval in history. That is accurate. Sleepy Boy says, would you vote for Gavin Newsom and Jasmine Crockett if they ran? I would. I'm not here to wish cast the 2028 election. I'm trying to focus on the special elections that are happening on April 1st in Wisconsin, Florida, and New York, and the midterms that are happening in 2026, and the work that we are all going to have to do to make sure that those elections go to Democrats, because that is the only way that we get out of this fucking mess, guys. But yeah, any Democratic candidate for president is going to be better than whatever Republican ding-dong they put forward as their nominee. And I guarantee you that if Trump is still alive, he is going to be the one running in 2028. I will bet $1 million that is going to happen. If he's alive. John H. says Dems have lowest approval in history. That is because of misinformation and propaganda. Saki67 says, how do you deprogram a MAGA cult member? It's very difficult. If you are interested in reading more about that, there's a book called The Persuaders that is excellent. I highly recommend it. The Persuaders, once again, give that a Google. It's by the same author who wrote Winners Take All. I could never pronounce his last name, so I'm not even going to try here. But yeah, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of listening. It takes a lot of understanding and finding common ground and building emotional trust. It's hard. It is really hard. But what I always tell people is you don't have to take a MAGA person and turn them into a fucking AOC Democrats. All you got to do is push the needle a little bit. Just do the work, guys. Do the work. Archie Schoolbroken says the Democratic Party is already center. No, it's not. The Democratic Party is a wide tent that represents the center left and the far left. Let's see here. Archie says Donald Trump is doing everything he can to destroy the American democracy. Completely agree with that. Let's see here. John H. says this guy right here is why y'all will never win again. Thank you for blocking him. Rena, you are doing the Lord's work. C. Kelly says thoughts on Israel and AIPAC. Israel has been a really bad actor in the Middle East for a long time. They have been annexing territory in Palestine. They have been kicking Palestinians out of their homes. They have set up illegal settlements in the West Bank. They have done war crimes against the people of Palestine. So I do not believe that America should be continuing to send money and weapons to Israel in lieu of all of that activity that the Israeli government is doing. I also do not agree with sending any money or assistance to Hamas because they are also guilty of doing war crimes. The difference is America isn't sending any money and weapons to Hamas. We are only sending it to the extremely far-right government of Benjamin Netanyahu. Sound Sensei says, do you think Trump pulling the chick from the UN ambassador job is to keep that house? Some people have suggested that. I need to dig into it a little bit more before I have, my official opinion, cemented into concrete or anything. But it sounds believable to me that because the Democrats have been doing good in special elections so far, they would try to staunch the bleeding by keeping her in her House seat. C. Kelly says both parties have strong ties to AIPAC and Israel. That is true, C. Kelly, but there's a difference. Democrats are better on this issue than Republicans are. I'm going to say that again just for the people in the back. Democrats are better on this issue than Republicans are. They are not perfect. They are not completely innocent or devoid of any wrongdoing, but they are better by a lot than Republicans are on this issue. When Biden was continuing to send money and weapons to Israel during his administration, he was actively putting pressure on the Netanyahu administration to stop doing war crimes against the people of Palestine. Trump is doing the opposite. He is saying, yeah, just go ahead, fucking ethnically cleanse that entire area. Trump also canceled sanctions that we had against illegal settlements in the West Bank, so we were punishing those people for annexing the people of Palestine's territory. Trump just said, it's fine, don't worry about it. Also, Biden stopped sending Israel 2,000-pound bombs, which, again, is not a lot of pushback, but is some, and Trump resumed sending them back 2,000-pound bombs. Republicans are talking about turning that area into, like, the Vegas of the Middle East, and Lindsey Graham says, why don't we just fucking nuke that entire area? So yeah, while Democrats are not great on this issue, they are still way better than Republicans are. Tattoo that on your forehead, everybody. Let's see here. Scott Clowers says Trump wants a golden statue of himself there. Completely agree with that. Jesus fucking Christ advocated against giving bombs to Israel. Are you talking about Biden? Because, yeah, he did advocate against giving bombs to Israel. So I don't know what your point is here, C. Kelly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 says neither Republicans or Democrats are wrong. They just have different perspectives on good values. No, that is not true. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is there a more sus handle that you could have than just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? I could delve into this a million different ways. But whatever the issue is, Democrats are better on it than Republicans. And there's a difference between having a difference of opinion politically. It's like, oh, I think with the taxes should be, 8%, and you think it should be 9.2%. Like, that's a difference of politics. But do you think it's okay to steal children from their parents and then lose the parents and then just don't even try to reunite them? Do you think it's okay that a American citizen who's done no crimes is now potentially sitting in a supermax concentration camp in El Salvador run by a murderous dictator in a concentration camp that is notorious for starving and beating their prisoner, human rights violations like that? Do you think it's okay that women die of preventable pregnancy complications just because the doctors are worried about legal liability because of the state's abortion bans? Like, are these things good? Billionaires have fucking golden mega yachts, and there are people dying on the street because they can't afford food and apartments. Do you think the solution to that is giving billionaires more money? Like, there's right and wrong here, guys. There's right and wrong. Apple user says, what good values are either good or you have bad values, period. I think I agree with you. Let's see here. Normal Gay says, do you think the Democrats are going to do anything about the current crisis? They're already doing lots of things. Normal Geese. This idea that the Democrats are feckless or sitting on their hands right now is just further evidence of how we've all been suckered into this propaganda narrative, just taking pot shots at the Democratic Party. When the Republican Party made it okay for states to ban abortion, they blamed the Democrats for not fighting hard enough. That's why? What's going on here, guys? Chase Riley says, do you think the Democratic Party should move center or keep and push further left to win in 26 and 28? So I am a progressive. I would love it if the Democratic Party further mirrored my beliefs, which are that of the progressive left. I don't prefer members of the centrist wing of the Democratic Party. They also tend to be a lot older, and I think it's time for generational change in our politics. But that being said, the point of the Democratic Party is that it's a big tent, and it should mirror the myriad of opinions and genders and sexualities and races of the American populace. And the idea that the Democratic Party works together to stand up to authoritarianism is what makes America great. It makes it difficult to run sometimes, like the billionaire class and Republicans have been very effective at getting Democrats to fight amongst themselves and convincing people to not vote because they don't like what the Democratic Party is doing, which is exactly what put Trump in office. But yeah, like working together to stand up to authoritarianism, it shouldn't matter if you are center left or far left. The party should reflect America. Normal Geese says, why do you think the DNC tries to appeal to centrists over left-wing voters? I think just because the people that operate the DNC have been there for a long time, and they know all of these people. They've worked with these people for a really long time. So I think it's probably just groupthink as far as like, I know that person, I don't know that person. I think that they have seen a lot of evidence in American history of Americans preferring to vote for centrist candidates over far left candidates. Hillary Clinton beat Bernie Sanders in 2016. Biden beat Bernie Sanders in 2020. There's also a lot of data suggesting that people like progressive candidates like AOC and Jasmine Crockett and Maxwell Frost. But that's not what the pollsters at the DNC are telling the people in charge. So they get a little gun shy about that sort of thing. Chase Riley says, love that answer. Sorry for asking several times. Don't apologize. Let's see here. Tyro Pillar over on YouTube says, could you explain Biden's support for Israel? Honestly, Tyro, I can't. I have no fucking idea why. It seems so obvious to me that we should not have continued sending money and weapons to Israel. We already have a law on the books that says we were not supposed to be doing that. Biden should know better than anybody that Netanyahu is not a good faith actor because he knows him. And he's dealt with him during the Biden administration. During the Obama administration, he dealt with him. So yeah, I have zero fucking idea. The only idea that I can think of is that, they're worried about being called anti-Semitic, and that can have a lot of weight, because we need all of the coalitions of the Democratic Party in order to win elections. We need to make Jewish people happy, and black people happy, and Latino people happy, and gay people happy, and women happy, and men happy. We have to make everybody happy, otherwise the coalition doesn't stay together. And also, AIPAC is an extremely well-funded organization, so I think that potentially he was worried about them putting their weight behind, adversarial candidates. Now, because AIPAC is a far right-wing organization, they were going to do that anyways, but I don't understand it. Like, I do not get it. It was the wrong thing to do. It was a dumb thing to do. It was the immoral thing to do. So, yeah, it was the illegal thing to do. Like, I don't get it at all. For somebody who's, like, his whole fucking thing was being empathetic, Like, that was Joe Biden's great strength was seeing people in person and being able to feel their pain and communicate that he understood their pain. And yet he was fine with that. Like, I don't get it. I think it's kind of unforgivable. But again, I would have voted 1,000 times for the dusty old pile of bones that was Joe Biden over the current administration. Because again, better is better and worse is worse, guys. Better doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be better. Let's see here. Janine Lee Kermis says, hi, one thing gets me. Why are most billionaires Democrats? They're not. Janine, 75% of all billionaire donations went to Republican candidates in 2024. It is a clear case of, people paying for certain things to happen. Billionaires give Republicans money, and in exchange, Republicans cut taxes for billionaires, and also cut taxes on their corporations, and also cut regulations on those corporations so that they can make more money by not having to worry about any pollution regulations or worker regulations or anything like that. And if you want more evidence of that, there were more billionaires in Trump's current cabinet than there have ever been in American history. And Elon Musk is a billionaire, and Donald Trump is a billionaire, and Vladimir Putin is a billionaire, and they're all working together to cut taxes for the 1%, raise taxes on everybody else, cut regulations for corporations so they can poison us, they can poison our air and our water and our food, because it costs money to make sure that our food is safe to eat and our air is safe to breathe and our water is safe to drink. And they don't want to spend that money. They'd rather keep that money, regardless of if you get fucking cancer or autoimmune diseases that RFK is supposedly cares so much about, Dylan says Elon is not in his cabinet, right? He is not in his cabinet technically, which again is why what Doge is doing is completely illegal. But he is like the shadow president or shadow vice president of America. Bob says billionaires went for Kamala 3-1. That is a lie, Bob. I don't know if you fell for that, Bob, or if you were here to purposefully spread misinformation, but that is not accurate at all. And again, you don't need to know how many billionaires went out and said, I am for the Democrat versus I am for the Republican. We have all the data we need. 75% of all billionaire donations went to Republican candidates in 2024. Republicans, their whole platform is a wish list for the billionaire class. Donald Trump is a billionaire. Elon Musk is a billionaire. Vladimir Putin is a billionaire. Peter Thiel is a billionaire. All of these people are working with the Trump administration. And, of course, they are also working to cut taxes for the top 1% and cut regulations for their companies so they don't have to worry about making sure that their products are safe for us or anything like that. So there you go, my man. Excuse me. Ugh. Sal says Soros, and Bob says dark money, sport. Yeah, none of the things you just said are arguments against what I just said. Dylan Barrera says Vlad is working in the cabinets, unofficially, but yeah, you got to look at what Trump is doing and think, if he was a Russian asset, would he be doing what he's doing? And the answer is unequivocally yes. Ethan Grasso says, how are you feeling about the special elections coming up, Florida and Wisconsin and New York? Ethan, don't forget about New York. I am worried about them, but I am not, panicking about them. The Wisconsin Supreme Court Supreme Court election is probably the most concerning because Elon Musk is putting, millions of dollars into that race. He is literally bribing people to vote for the Republican candidate. He is flying to Wisconsin to personally hand out $2 million to some people who have already voted for his candidate, which is illegal and wildly unethical. But, the districts in Florida and New York that are up are, districts that Trump won by wide margins. So it is an uphill battle, but we can win it. If we don't win it, I'm not viewing that as like, oh my God, the sky is falling. It would be really great if we did win them, but it completely makes sense if we did not. Let's see here. Dylan Barrera says, bribing like free concerts. Dylan, somebody coming to a Harris rally and then also getting to see Gracie Abrams is not a bribe. So, sorry, Metal Master says, stop lying. He's not bribing anyone. He literally is, though, so I don't know what you're talking about. Let's see here. I don't know who Hamilton James is. Sal, are you just naming billionaires? Because, again, naming a billionaire who's a Democrat or who supports Democrat does not invalidate the mountain of evidence that I have given you. Boxer Love says, I live in Wisconsin and he literally is bribing people for their votes. He's offering $100 to vote. Thank you, Boxer Love. I appreciate you clarifying that. C. Kelly says, thoughts on JFK? I don't have any nuanced opinions on JFK. He seemed like an okay guy to me. It seems like he, potentially cheated on his wife with Marilyn Monroe. I don't know. Let's see here. Sal says, you saying it doesn't make it so. No, but the evidence that I gave you does make it so. And if you choose to ignore that, that's fine. But if you don't ask a question, I'm going to block you. Let's see here. Jeremiah Johnson, MAGA's gullible ignorance is what got us where we are. The proof is right here in these comments. Jeremiah Johnson, I want to agree with you. I desperately want to agree with you. But the fact of the matter is, the right wing of this country does not have a monopoly on getting conned and getting tricked. There are 8 million Democratic voters who got conned into not voting in 2024. And whatever it was that convinced them not to vote, it was, a fully fabricated piece of right-wing propaganda. Both parties are the same. Voting doesn't do anything. Genocide Joe. Democrats are owned by the billionaires, etc. Like, all of those are lies, but people fell for it. They bought it. And that's why we are where we are today. It's not just because the people on the right got tricked into voting for Trump. It's that the people on the left or the center left got tricked into not voting or voting for Trump as well. While I think I would love to just say that this is only the fault of the extreme right. Everybody has a piece of this, fault. If you didn't vote, if you voted for Trump, I am not here to yell at you. I am just, that is the case. Everybody gets conned. Everybody is plugged into the propaganda and misinformation machines of social media. If a person reads the news, they most likely vote for Democrats by a factor of like 80 to 20. That means that the voters that we all needed were getting their information off of social media. And social media is, as we all know, the Wild West. It is owned by the exact same billionaires that want Republicans to win so that they can keep more of their money, and then Republicans will cut regulations for them. And it is really easy to manipulate social media if you have a lot of money and power, which the Republican Party does because they are working with the billionaire class. People, all these misinformation narratives are being fucking fire hosed into our faces for the last 10 years or so. It is the reason why we think certain untrue things about politics. Patrick Kelly says, you are literally making money and promoting your comedy through social media. I make almost no money off of social media, and I don't promote my comedy on social media either. So I'm not really sure what you're trying to get at here, Patrick Kelly. But again, if you don't ask a question, I'm gonna boot you. Sal, still not asking a question, is now no longer with us. Thank you for joining us, Sal. Corby says, I partially don't ever see Republicans do what you're doing. I only get Dean, you, Parkers, and other. I'm not really sure what you mean by that. Like, do you not see Republicans engaging with people on live streams? Because I've definitely seen Republicans do that. But also, I don't like fighting. I don't like debating. I'm just here to answer questions. And so, yeah, if somebody wants to be a jerk to me in the comments, maybe I'll get a little spicy. But those people's channels are all about debating and owning people on the other side. And I'm not about that. Let's see here. Tyro says, I blame AutoPen. Pretty funny. Geriatric says, thoughts on Prime Minister of Canada announced today they are cutting ties with us, America. What's that mean? So it's a little bit more of a I don't know. I want to say it's like kind of a ceremonial thing that they're doing where he's basically saying like our relationship has changed. It is not what it used to be. It's kind of like a friend breakup, where it's just like we're not down the way that we used to be. I don't know. I haven't dug into this enough to know if there's any like substantive policy changes besides retaliatory tariffs, like the way that Trump is putting tariffs on Canada, they're going to put them back on us. But yeah, the government of Canada and really a lot of our allies are basically saying like, we can't trust you anymore, and we're not going to be sharing intelligence with you anymore. We're not going to be relying on you as a friend or a partner in global peace or global trade or anything like that. And that is disastrous for both global peace and American prosperity. So yeah, but I mean, it is the right thing for them to do. Like, they need to protect their country. They need to not genuflect to the authoritarian fascist shit that the Trump administration is currently doing. Let's see here. Kurt Tyson says, LOL, look at the top 10 billionaire majority are Democrats. That is not true, Kurt Tyson, and I don't know how many times I can argue this, so instead, I'm going to boot you for not asking a question. All right, ask a question. Even if I disagree with you, if you're asking a question, you will not get booted. Full of Crows says, why did radicalism rise in the Republican Party? There are entire books written about that, Fall of Crowns. So it's difficult to point that at like one specific thing. I think that it has a multitude of factors. I think social media was a big part of it. I think that the right wing of this party has been moving towards the extreme for a really long time. I would say that this started in the 80s, that, things like talk radio and Fox News was incentivizing people to express the most extreme right-wing view possible, and then that was getting lots and lots of views and listens and stuff like that. There is an AstroTurf quality to all of this right-wing media being popular because a lot of these channels aren't profitable at all. They're just being propped up by psychotic right-wing billionaires like the Koch brothers and Peter Thiel and Russia and shit like that. So yeah, the American people have not punished the Republican Party for being extreme, and so they have just continued doing it. The mainstream media, right-wing media, social media has been weaponized against the Democratic Party to a way where people have untrue ideas about what they are. People will vote in red states for ballot initiatives that fully mirror the Democratic platform, but they won't vote for Democratic politicians. And it is because they are the victim of a 40-year-long smear campaign that has been assisted by the billionaire class. Let's see here. Bodybag says, bruh, wait until you learn about the families that control the world banking industry. That seems like an anti-Semitic dog whistle, but I will let you stay so long as you ask a question next time. Dan Blackwood says, what do you think MAGA finds most comforting about voting Trump, since we know it's not about facts? It's a really interesting question. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of think that there's a combination of factors. Like, there's the people that fall for it. They're just the people that they're listening to right-wing media, and their family is right-wing and their church is right-wing. And so they just think that the information that they're getting from there is accurate. And so they believe that Doge is finding billions of dollars worth of government waste that is going to go back into our pockets, and deporting illegals is going to put more money in their pockets and make the country better. There are people who are just like hardcore racists, and they like that Trump is being mean to brown people and black people. Then there are the rich people who they see exactly what's going on, but they like their tax cuts and they like keeping all their billions of dollars. So yeah, I don't know. It's difficult. It is listening to pollsters talk about focus groups with American voters is fascinating to discover the weird combination of political beliefs that people have in this country. There are people who are like pro-immigrant but also pro-wall. And there are people who are pro-environment but also pro the oil and gas industry. Like, they believe people have like a very interesting and weird combination of beliefs. It's not just people on the left all believe this and people on the right all believe this. And I think the more that people can recognize that, how diverse and eclectic and weird the American political psyche is, I think people will potentially make people more open to the idea that their politicians don't need to mirror their values perfectly. They recognize that politicians need to do the best thing for their constituents, and their constituents represent a variety of opinions and races and sexual orientations and genders, etc. Let's see here. Dan Blackwood says that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, as disheartening as it is. I mean, it's disheartening and it's not disheartening, Dan Blackwood, because there's been a lot of things that have happened in this country that have been beautiful collaborations with all these different kinds of people all coming together to agree on what a good path forward is. I think sometimes back to the Obama administration when they were first campaigning, there were people who told Barack Obama to his face, like, I disagree with your platform, but you seem like you have your heart in the right place, and so you have earned my vote. You know, that people can have good faith in this country, even if their politicians don't align with them 100%. Let's see here. Kaj over on YouTube says, why do you consider noticing representation as anti-Semitism? I don't know what you are trying to accomplish with that question, Kaj. I don't know what I did that said that noticing representation is anti-Semitism, but I've been Jewish long enough to recognize dog whistle anti-Semitism when I see it. Let's see here. Tyro Pillar says, I think that's how I'm going to start my conversations. How is that going to be how you start your conversations, Tyro? M. Renee says, people still don't understand tariffs. What is your opinion of how a tariff works? So M. Renee, I appreciate your question. I got to be real though. Like, it doesn't matter what my opinion is. Like, there is a reality to tariffs, which is that they are a tax on the American public. That's not my opinion. That is just a fact. And so I think I understand the question that you were asking there. But some people will literally say, like, what's your opinion about this? As though it's like, what's your opinion on which mountain is the tallest in America and shit like that. Yes, M. Renee, I do know what you mean. Bit Nevo says, when will Americans hold Roberts accountable for enabling all of this? My pessimistic view, Bit Nevo, is never. Because, the American public has a really hard time associating their vote for a politician with the outcomes that politician delivers. And the Supreme Court is even further down the ladder of consequences, and so it is difficult for people to keep that in their noodle at the same time. Like, if you are somebody who follows the news in America, then you know exactly what Roberts has done to enable all of this shit that we are currently suffering under. But somebody who is a little less informed might just think that this is a problem with Roberts and Alito, and somebody who is even less informed might not connect the extreme right-wing Supreme Court with the Republican Party that nominated and sat them. And somebody who's even less informed might not recognize that the Supreme Court is doing anything at all, and that they think that everything that's happening is a consequence of what Republicans in government are doing. Or if you're even further down the ladder than that, you just think the president does everything. And if you're even further down the ladder than that, you probably just think only Democrats do bad things, shit like that. So yeah, it's difficult. Part of the reason why I do these lives is because I'm trying to encourage people to be more aware of what the government is doing and the way that the government is supposed to be working and the way that their vote can affect the way that they live their lives and the way and the outcomes for themselves and the people that they care about the most, Body Bag says, vote local if you want results, but you also got to vote big as well. If more people voted for Kamala Harris, we wouldn't be in this fucking mess. Anthony Novellano says, do you think reciprocal tariffs are fair? I think that if America puts a tariff on Canada, it is only fair for Canada to put a tariff back on us. But then, if Trump then says that since Canada put a reciprocal tariff on us, then we have to put a reciprocal tariff on them, that is not fair. That is just further escalating the dumb, fucking stupid, pointless trade war that Trump started. Dylan Barrera says, how do you feel about people burning Tesla vehicles in protest? So I don't condone any kind of violence or property destruction. I'm not sad about it because fuck Elon Musk, because he deserves every bad thing that happens to him and his company. But again, I don't condone it. I'm not telling people to go out and do it. I also think that it is inaccurate to ascribe that to the left because we have no idea who is doing that. It is a bunch of different people. There's no coordinated effort. There's no, George Soros-backed initiative to recruit people to burn Tesla dealerships or shit like that. It's just people that are upset at Elon Musk. And that can be anybody because he is one of the least popular people in America. Louis says Canada had tariffs on America for decades. There was a trade deal, Louis, that Trump negotiated with Canada. So if you don't like that trade deal, then you can blame Canada. X says he's bad because he's uncovering corruption. No, he is not uncovering corruption, X. And if that is what you think, then he is lying to you. Oh, you don't care about my answer. You're just here to spam the comments. So you are out of here. Let's see here. One Love says it's not Trump supporters. That is accurate. It might be somebody who voted for Trump, though. But if somebody's fully MAGA, they do not believe that Elon Musk or Donald Trump are doing anything wrong. So yeah, I can confidently say that they're not the ones that are burning Teslas. But there's a big difference. It's not everybody who's not MAGA isn't automatically a Democrat. There are a lot of people in the middle of that soup. Let's see here. GoHawk says, too afraid to talk to someone? No, I talk to people all the time. Overstreet Family Crew says, do you think the Supreme Court will overturn birthright citizenship? That's a tough one. That's really difficult. I don't know. The Supreme Court is... You'll never lose money on betting that this Supreme Court will do the wrong thing, but there are black swan events where they do the right thing, or they just do like a softer version of the wrong thing. So, for example, they didn't give Trump full immunity with their presidential immunity decision, but they did give him enough immunity that it's essentially full immunity. They didn't strike down the Voting Rights Act. They just crippled the Voting Rights Act and shit like that. I think that the Supreme Court is dealing with a bucket of really interesting motivating factors. Like, they don't want to give Trump a hard no because then he potentially could challenge their authority, and they don't want that. They want to at least have the facade that they still have some power in the government. But then there's also really shitty people on the Supreme Court like Thomas and Alito who are completely fine with doing something fully unconstitutional and illegal just because Trump and the Republican Party want them to do it. So yeah, I don't know. It is scary that we, the American people, cannot trust the Supreme Court to just follow what is obviously constitutionally correct. It is, and it's infuriating. You know, like, we should all be really pissed off. Like, we don't have to live like this, guys. Like, it can be better. We can live in a better country if we just vote out these fucking right-wing pieces of shit who are working with the billionaire class to turn the screws on our fucking neck and make our lives so much more hard while they're fucking eating lobster and caviar and drinking champagne on their fucking golden yachts with helicopter pads and shit like that. Let's see here. Cash says, how do we protect industry without tariffs, e.g. our car production, and are you pro-wall? So I'm not pro-wall, Cash, because the wall is dumb. It is not going to stop illegal immigration. Almost all illegal immigration happens, people drive or take a plane. So, you know, it's not a good use of time and resources. In addition to the fact that the government would have to steal territory from American citizens in order to build the wall. That's neither here nor there. And as far as like protecting our industry, the tariffs don't protect our industry. They make our industry more insular. But it's not like, it doesn't protect those businesses. Like, businesses do better when there is collaboration with other countries, being able to get resources from other countries, being able to ship parts to other countries to get, finished completion. American cars that are being sold here in America have components that go into Canada, back into America, into Mexico, back into America, back to Canada, blah, blah, blah. And that is a good move for a company like Ford or, insert American car company name here. But yeah, it is a short-sighted and inaccurate view that tariffing every other country, completely closing off America to foreign trade the way that like North Korea does is going to be better for American citizens or business in the long run. It just isn't, like we are already getting lapped technologically by other countries because of shit that Trump had done in his first term and now in his second term. We were beginning to get that back during the Biden administration with the Chips and Science Act and with the Inflation Reduction Act. But we're still far behind. Like, look at how much better the electric cars are that are coming out of China right now than America. There is a reason for that. And it is because under Republican leadership, America has divested from green technology, from research in green technology. It has spat in the face of our scientists. Like right now, scientists and doctors are all fleeing America because they can't be certain that their research is going to be taken seriously here in America. They could potentially suffer from legal consequences if the thing that their research discovered was not what the Trump administration wants. I forget where I was in that list that I was just delivering, but you get my point. Jason Gator says, you're totally wrong about the electric cars coming out of China. No, I'm not. Jason Gator. Cars from China are not specifically better, specifically the electric ones. No, the electric cars are way, way better. They are cheaper, they charge faster, they have longer range. Like, there is no substance to what you're saying, Jason Gator. And if you don't ask a question, you're going to get booted. Dylan Barrera says, can you explain how tariffs aren't a good thing in the long run? Sure, dude, I'm very knowledgeable. All automobiles, you're totally wrong. All right, well, that wasn't a question. So, are you ready here? Okay, so, how are tariffs not good in the long run? So, the way that technological manufacturing and really just manufacturing in general works, we have been moving towards a more global economy for a really long time. That cat is out of the bag. And whether there are negative consequences to that for the American workers or whatever, that is completely debatable. And there are ways that we can mitigate around that by, using the power of the government to strengthen unions and things like that. But when you cut off American trade from other countries, you limit the kind of resources that we have available to us. We don't have all of the silicon and helium and carbon and, fucking insert rare precious metals in this country that we need for all the production that we want to be able to do. We don't have all of the technological advancements that we would need to do all the things that we need to do here. So if there's a great chip that is coming out of Canada or Korea or wherever, now it is harder for us to get it. It's more expensive for us to get it. And that slows down technological process here in America. It slows us. It keeps us out of the global trade where everybody else's economies are going to get to keep on growing and developing because they're still trading with each other. They are still getting all of the benefits of global trade, even though they're no longer trading with America, and it's just we that lose out. That's it. Alrighty, let's see here. Kaj says, not when other countries use slave labor. I completely agree that we should not be doing business with countries that do slave labor, but it is also not as simple as saying, like, you're doing slave labor, we're out of here, I think that it would do everybody well to recognize how complicated these issues are and not think that it is just, if I do this, then this happens, and that's really good, I guess. Let's see here. Dylan Barrera says, with us being a huge consumer, don't you put a leg up on it going global instead of them just taking advantage? I guess an argument could be made that because we are such a big market here, that we have more power in a trade war, but that's not really borne out in the data, because Americans need more things, we are then also more susceptible to not having those things provided to us. I don't know if you've ever seen what a Walmart is like when, like during COVID, they were out of toilet paper and shit like that. Like, Americans lose their fucking mind. And so if we're not able to get all the things that we need to produce all the things that Americans consume, that is, potentially going to create a lot of chaos and division and potentially political consequences for the people who are in charge. If you look at China, like, Xi Jinping doesn't need to worry about any elections coming up. So it doesn't matter if cutting off trade to America is going to fuck up things for consumers in this country. Let's see here. Alice says, hear about Florida dropping age to 14 for kids to go to work. Yeah, don't you think it's interesting that in red states they're looking at laws to, loosening child labor laws? Like, didn't we all agree that child labor was a bad thing? Didn't we all agree that that was a bad thing? And Sarah Huckabee Sanders is trying to get child labor laws rolled back, and Florida's looking at child labor laws rolling back. Like, did you think that getting rid of immigrants, they were just going to pay adults more to do those jobs? No, they're just going to torture children in order to get those jobs done instead. They still want to pay these people $5 an hour. They're not gonna pay you $25 an hour to do that job anymore. They're just gonna get a high school kid to do it instead. That's gonna ruin that kid's fucking life, Let's see here. Dylan Barrera says the data just show that tariffs help us when they take shots at the US dollar. Yeah, Dylan, there are smart ways to do tariffs, but that is not what the Trump administration is doing. They are doing it dumbly, and they're doing it chaotically, where now companies can't plan going forward because they don't know what things are going to cost, because the tariffs are on, then the tariffs are off, and the tariffs are on, then the tariffs are off, then there's exceptions for the tariffs, then there's not exceptions for the tariffs. Like, that should be extremely concerning to everybody in this country. Overstraight Family Crew says, if they do overturn birthright citizenship, then what gives any of us rights to citizenship? You are talking exactly what I'm talking, Overstreet Family Crew. Like, they do not give a shit. If you are a citizen, if you are not a citizen, if you are a green card holder, if you are illegal, if you are in the process of seeking asylum or becoming a citizen, they don't give a shit. If they want to arrest you, they will. If they want to deport you, they will. If they want to fucking throw you in a detention center and disappear you for the fucking rest of your life, they will. If they want to ship you off to a fucking El Salvadorian concentration camp run by a brutal dictator that is famous for starving and beating their prisoners, they will. It is just whether or not they want to. And if they don't know that you exist yet, then you're safe, But, if you are a vocal, dissident of this administration, there's nothing that's protecting you. There's no rule of law anymore for the Trump administration because ICE is a rogue agency that is doing whatever they want. The courts can say stop it, but will they? I'm not trying to just scare you guys just so that we could all be, fucking hide under the covers. I'm trying to scare you guys into action, to do the work of stopping this, because that's the only way that we get out of this is if we all do the work to stop this. We have to exercise the power that we have as the masses, striking, protesting, boycotting, putting pressure on our elected representatives, and voting, and convincing, and recruiting. Like, that is part of the thing that I'm doing on here. I'm looking for more people to do the work that I have been doing already in, protesting and boycotting and canvassing and, voting and voting advocacy and, making sure that people know what's actually going on instead of just, falling down the propaganda rabbit holes on, on social media. Dylan Barrera says, do you really believe they would? Dylan, they already are, Dylan. It is happening right now. ICE has rounded up veterans. They have rounded up citizens. They have rounded up Native Americans. There are people sitting in an El Salvadorian concentration camp right now that the government has not provided any evidence that they have committed a crime, that they are illegal, that they are not undocumented, that they are not naturalized citizens. Like, we don't have any fucking idea. And there is some reporting that is coming out that there are perfectly innocent American citizens, people that were born here, that are right now sitting in a concentration camp in El Salvador. So, Dylan, you're saying, do you really believe they would? You don't need to believe shit. Like, it's happening right now. And that should be hugely concerning for everybody in this country. This should be hugely concerning, regardless of if you vote right or vote left. If anything happens that puts you in their crosshairs, or even if not, the guy who's doing all this, his name is Tom Homan, Homan, which is exactly the name that an alien would come up with if he was trying to convince people that he was not an alien. Tom Homan, he called these things collateral deportations. If you're standing next to somebody who they want to deport, you could potentially get deported and sent to fucking El Salvador. Does that not worry you? You could scream on the entire fucking way, like, I voted for Trump. I go to Trump rallies. I got a fucking MAGA hat at my house. They don't give a shit. They don't care. Yeah, it's fucking terrifying, man. Let's see here. Matt Moody said, show me where to find it, please. So there's tons of reporting about this, but if you want a abbreviated version of it, the episode of Pod Save America that came out today, they got into a lot of this, the specifics. And so if you want to delve further into that, I would say check that out. There's also a podcast called Strict Scrutiny, which they have talked about this as well on a recent episode of theirs. So yeah, this is a really easy way for you guys to get this information. You don't have to read shit. You can just listen to those podcast episodes. Let's see here. Lisa Calcagano 237 says, "Isn't their cost of living less overseas? Isn't that like low-level job here, not slave labor?" I'm not really sure what you mean by that question, Lisa. Rafael Marcoisen says, "What will be with Russian war?" I'm worried that we're gonna join Russia. I'm worried that we're gonna start sending money and weapons and troops to Russia to help them take over, Ukraine and all of Europe and shit like that. Caleb MP says, "How many oranges could you eat in an hour?" That is, if your family's lives were in danger. That is really funny. Let's see here. Mr. K. Scotty says, "Why would I ask you anything about politics?" You don't have to ask me anything about politics. Let's see here. Joy Rosapina says, "I think eventually he'll start rounding up anyone who resists against him, journalists, citizens." Yeah, Joy, I am extremely worried about that too. Especially as somebody who is loudly, vocally progressive and does a live stream, daily about this shit. I am worried. The only thing that is protecting me at the moment is the fact that I am potentially operating under the radar. You know what I mean? Mint Spring says, "How do you see this ending? Very concerned with the professors and other researchers leaving." So, all right, I'll answer that question. But first, Matthew says, "Do you think Trump is a genius?" 100% not. Opposite. He's one of the dumbest pieces of shit in the world. I don't know how you can listen to a guy who sounds like a kid giving a book report who didn't read the book and think that he's a genius. Aimo Tevate says, "Will special elections change anything?" So it won't give Democrats the House if we win the 2 seats that are up right now, 2 or 3 seats. I have to look into the Elisa Slotkin thing. But the Supreme Court race in Wisconsin will be hugely influential. And so if you live in Wisconsin, you should do everything you can to make sure that the progressive judge wins and not the Elon Musk judge. So yeah, Mint Spring, how do I see this ending? There's 2 versions. There's the version where people like you and me do the work of stopping this. Boycotting, protesting, striking, making our voices heard, putting political pressure on our elected representatives, especially if they are Republican House or Senate members, voting, convincing other people to vote, to organize, recruiting people, correcting misinformation that might be living in the heads of our friends and our neighbors and our coworkers and our loved ones. Then we stop this. Then we get to go back to having a free and fair country and not fucking Russia where you can get deported or disappear just because you disagree with the administration. If people don't do the work, if we just sit around and hope and pray that the Democratic Party saves us or that the judiciary saves us or the Supreme Court saves us, then we just continue spiraling down into authoritarianism and we become the worst version of what Russia is, where people are scared to say anything negative about the president because they don't want to get their fucking whole family disappeared, or there's no real political opposition party because all of the people on the left have been thrown in jail or are suffering from fraudulent investigations or have literally been murdered, So yeah, those are the 2 versions of the world that we are staring down the barrel of. And, it's not a binary. It's potentially, somewhere in the middle of people doing enough work or people doing not enough work, but it's really scary. And I hope that people are hearing what I'm saying and doing the work and also recruiting other people to do the work. I'm not here for clout, guys. I don't care about getting more followers. I care about spreading this information and getting people activated and organizing and involved. Let's see here. Matthew says, "What are some things you somewhat agree with Trump?" Here's the thing, Matthew. Oh no, sorry. I am having connection issues over on TikTok. Cash says, "Are you pro mass legal immigration? And if so, would you have anything against some African or Asian country like Japan or China, protecting their sense of homogeneity through things like deportation?" Kaj, I have some complicated thoughts about that. But let me get back to this other question that I was answering before I started having connection issues over on TikTok. So Matthew, I want to answer your questions because I do think they're interesting. So what are some things that I agree with Trump on? Here's the thing. Republicans get so much credit and so little blame for the shit that they do. And Democrats get so much blame and so little credit for the things that they do. And I am not here to do that. I am trying to reverse that trend because the American people have a skewed view of how bad the Republican Party is and how good the Democratic Party is. The Democratic Party is way better than most people think it is, and the Republican Party is way worse than most people think it is. And so I am not going to sit here and say, like, I like this one thing that Trump did, blah, blah, blah. It is foundational that Trump and Elon Musk and the Republican Party are acting against the best interests of the 99% of most of us here in this country. And so I am not going to stop ringing this alarm bell long enough for me to go like, I like that he said he was going to get rid of the penny and stuff like that. That's number one. So you also wrote thoughts on Trump supporters. So I have in the past teased Trump supporters a lot. I've made videos calling them dumb, and I've retweeted videos calling them ugly and shit like that. And I used to make fun of them in my stand-up and stuff like that. But I don't anymore. And there's a very specific reason why I don't do that anymore. And it is because when we fight, the billionaire class wins. And so I do not care if you want to call me a cuck, libtard, sheep person, one of the sheeple, shit like that. I am still going to get you to work to realize that you have been lied to and that you have been conned, and to recognize that I am not your enemy. Trans kids are not your enemy. Immigrants are not your enemy. Brown people are not your enemy. Poor people are not your enemy. Your enemy, the people who are ruining your fucking life, or if they're not ruining it, they're making it way harder than it has to be, are the billionaire class and the Republican Party politicians that are working hand in hand with them to cement their position at the top of the fucking hill, where they get to have, there's no rules for them, they can do whatever the fuck they want, and fucking have money fights and fuck each other on mountains of caviar and gold, while the rest of us are fucking struggling to put food on the table, to pay for our medical bills, to make sure that our loved ones are safe and taken care of, to make sure that our kids don't get fucking shot at school. We are worried and stressed and working 3 jobs at fucking shitty pay, while these motherfuckers are just living it up. They're living the fucking life, stealing money out of our fucking pockets. Those are the ones that I'm mad at. I'm not mad at Trump supporters anymore. I'm not mad at MAGA. I'm not mad at tanky liberals or centrist liberals or people that did not vote, because those aren't the ones that are fucking my life over and the lives of the people that I care about. Scott says, and building rockets shaped like dogs. My favorite thing about these lives is when I finish a rant that I am very passionate about and talking about the first comment I see is something fucking hilarious like that. God bless you, Scott. Thank you for being here. All right, Kaj asked about pro-mass legal immigration. So, first of all, I take issue with the use of the word mass in your question, because you're making it sound like, there's a difference between the value that immigrants have versus the value that immigrants have. There's too many immigrants. Oh no, now there's too many immigrants. I do not know what the right number of immigrants is to come into a country in a way that is safe and stable and beneficial for everybody. But I do know that on the net, immigrants are a positive for whatever country they go to. They do not spend as much in social services as they put in tax revenue. They commit crimes at lower rates than naturalized citizens. They are valued members of their community. So yeah, I don't see where being a hard line against immigration is an issue. Sorry, I don't see where being a hardliner on immigration is helping the country, except in the sense of being able to demonize immigrants and point your finger at them and say, that's the reason why you're poor. That's the reason why you can't put food on the table. It's not me and my buddies fucking, having lobster 3 meals a day on our fucking giant yachts, our giant fucking flying golden diamond studded yachts over here. So yeah, and as far as other countries are going to do what other countries are going to do. I understand that other countries that a person might like in Europe or Asia or whatever might have different laws that you don't agree with, but I'm not a citizen of those countries. I'm a citizen of this country. And so those are the values that I ascribe to here, where I am from, where I was born and raised. Let's see here. Bill Hodges says that happened under other presidents as well. That will never change. What happened, Bill Hodges? Let me know. Aimo Tiavate says, I am an immigrant U.S. citizen. I am engineer and NBA. Thank you. I appreciate you, Aimo Tiavante, for being here. Bill Hodges says, things are no different today for me as they were under Biden. Why is everyone crying? Well, Bill Hodges, because things are radically different under Trump than they were under Biden. And if you aren't experiencing that, then you are very lucky. And I am jealous that you are that lucky. But I think that even if you haven't been affected yet, it is only a matter of time before the Trump administration does something to hurt you or somebody that you care about. And I hope and pray that it doesn't happen, but we are all under threat of the Trump administration right now. It does not matter how much money you have, how white you are, how Christian you are. If they want to get rid of you and there are no laws to protect you, they will. You know? And so, yeah, I think that everybody should be worried about this stuff, even if you are not a poor person or a brown person or an immigrant. You know? So, yeah, there you go, Bill. The rich stuffing their faces. Oh, that's what you were talking about. Yeah, you know, but if anybody's going to stop that, it's going to be the Democratic Party, because they are the party of pro-workers and taxing the rich and having regulations that keep these fucking corporations in check. Lead60 says, when you live governments abuse people for one thing or another, it gets around to you sooner or later. Leads, why don't you clean up that comment? I'm not really sure what you are saying there. Drake Mortar says, pro-workers, they've turned their back on everyone, LOL. That is not true, Drake Mortar. Biden's National Labor Relations Board was the most pro-union NLRB in maybe since FDR. He walked the picket line with the auto workers union. He successfully negotiated paid sick days for the rail workers union and successfully avoided a rail worker strike, which would have really hurt working class and poor Americans here in this country. So the whole rail union workers thing was an unmitigated success. Not enough people are fucking talking about that, because Biden avoided a strike and got the union exactly what they wanted. And nobody is giving him his fucking flowers for that shit, you know? Drake Mortar says, his crime bill locked up minorities. Yeah, we're still talking about things that Biden did 40 years ago. You can fucking miss me with that shit. Normal Geese says, he ordered the rail worker unions to not strike. This is wildly false. Normal Geese, that is not true. So, the Democratic Party, in league with the Republican Party and Joe Biden, recognized that a strike would be disastrous for the American economy, for the working class and poor Americans. So they made it illegal for the rail workers union to strike. The Republicans did it, the Democrats did it, everybody did it. The Democrats, though, tried to put into the bill, making it illegal for the rail workers union to strike, that the rail owners had to give the rail workers union their sick days. The Republicans voted against that, and so it did not get into the bill. Months later, Biden and his team were working behind the scenes to get the rail workers union the sick days they wanted to strike for. They were successful. The rail workers union came out and they said, thank you, Joe Biden and his team, for negotiating behind the scenes and getting us the sick days that were the original reasons why we wanted to strike in the fucking first place. So yeah, sorry, Normal Geese, but you were wrong about that. So there you go. Chance Berryhill says, MAGA or Kamala? Again, we got another bot that somebody forgot to unplug in Russia, because why are we still talking about Kamala when the election is over? Rob Ryan says, why is it Dems don't fight hard enough for unions, so I vote for people who dismantle unions? Misinformation and propaganda, Rob Ryan. Thank you for being here, Rob. I appreciate you. I appreciate your questions. There is the social media where the voters that we need to convince are all getting their news from, manages to fit a propaganda narrative into people's head that either gets them to vote for Republicans or get them to not vote for Democrats. And that narrative can be as accurate or inaccurate as, they want it to be. So, for example, they will have a video pop up in your feed that says, Biden and the Democrats betrayed the rail workers union for making it illegal for them to strike. And that is, a totally valid thing to think and say, regardless of the fact that a strike would have been detrimental to the American economy. It would have hurt poor Americans and working class Americans more than anybody. The fact is that we have made it illegal for essential industries to strike in the past. But yeah, ideologically, yes, we should have let the union strike because that is what unions are supposed to be able to do, to exercise their collective power over industry. But the fact of the matter is that Republicans are worse on this issue, and Biden successfully negotiated for those paid sick days. So he did the work of getting the union the things that they wanted to strike for. The algorithm won't show you that, though. They'll just show you the one video saying that Democrats and Biden are, betraying the union. They're not going to show you any examples of Republicans doing worse shit or Biden fixing the whole fucking problem, getting the best of both worlds, no strike, and getting the union exactly what they fucking wanted. And so all of these, narratives are getting fucking shot at people's faces, and it's all getting absorbed into their noodles. And so now people have these weird fucking ideas about the parties, whether they think the Republican Party is better than it is, and they think the Democratic Party is worse than it is. So that's the answer to that. Thank you, Rob, for your question. I like it a lot better being able to, you asking a question and then me getting to monologize than what we used to do, which is us actually having a conversation about this stuff. So Jim says the immigrants before them didn't get money and services handed to them either. I'm not really sure what you are saying there. Jose Gamino says, how do you see the next 4 years going? I've answered this already, Jose, but I'll give you the brief version. There's two ways this can go. We either go further down the authoritarian path and Trump gets to become king dictator for life and hand the presidency down to his fucking idiot kids, the way that aristocratic, fiefdoms worked in the Middle Ages. Or we, the people, do the work of stopping him. Because there is not an organization on this planet that has the power to stop him besides us. The only advantage that we have over the Republican Party and the billionaire class is numbers of people. And so if we all do the work, if we use the power that we have as the population of this country, striking, protesting, boycotting, putting pressure on our elected representatives, voting, recruiting others, convincing others to join our side, then we stop this. Authoritarian governments cannot hold against a united opposition. If we all work together to stop this, to stand up to Trump and Elon Musk and all the fucking shit that they're doing, and the Republican Party in general, and the billionaire class in general, they cannot stop us. It's impossible. There's too many of us. So yeah, let's all work for that version of the future, guys. Let's all do the work. Alrighty, let's see here. Benjamin Timothy Jen says, do you think this administration will collapse? And if so, when? I do not think this administration is going to collapse unless we, the people, force it to collapse. It is not going to implode because of infighting or, contrary motivations. RFK Jr. trying to stop, chronic illnesses in children is not going to stop pollution. And it's not going to force a rift between Trump and RFK. RFK is just going to bend over and say, okay, yeah, sure, no problem, whatever you say, Trump, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I have heard other people responding to what's going on in the Trump administration as saying, oh no, the more conservative Republicans, the more establishment Republicans are going to fight with the RFK Republicans. The RFK Republicans going to fight with the Elon Musk Republicans, going to fight with the Steve Bannon Republicans. I don't see that happening. That seems to be real wish casting, in my opinion. Cash says, you didn't respond to the point of a country's sense of homogeny. Do you think it should be valued? I don't really know what you mean by that. A sense of homogeny. Like, is that like protecting the culture of America being one specific kind of culture, the way that like Japan would want to protect their culture or France would want to protect their culture? Is that what you're talking about when you mean homogeny? Let me know. Jim says the new immigrants are being handed money. Homes and services stay in this country. That is not true, Jim. That is inaccurate. I hope and pray that you get your news from a different source because that is inaccurate. Benjamin Timothy Jen says, do you think Trump will get Greenland? He will if we do nothing, because it is his expressed desire to be a Putin-style dictator where not only does he get to be president for life and then get to hand the presidency down to his stupid fucking kids, but he also expands the American empire and starts taking over Canada and Mexico and Greenland and shit like that. So yeah, if we don't stop him from doing that, then yeah, he will take it. Absolutely. Drake Mortar says, tell me how the bad rich man hurts you. I mean, I've been doing that the whole life, Drake, and I completely understand what you're doing here. I speak your language. I know what you're doing. So if you don't ask a question in good faith, I'm going to get rid of you. Let's see here. And don't spam the comments because, again, I'll get rid of you. I don't really... there we go. That's what I wanted to see. Drake Mortar. There we go. Yeah, that guy's out of here. Sassy says, will we get a big raise in Social Security? No, Sassy, opposite. It is probably not going to exist. Nate says, how'd you find time in your day from standing with Ukraine and damaging Teslas? You know, it's pretty funny, Nate, but you're out of here also because I don't put up with any of that nonsense. All right, everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you for all the comments and all the questions and all of the likes and the shares and the gifts and everything. I love you guys supporting this project that I'm doing here, and I hope and pray that you guys will hear my siren call and do the work. There are already great organizations doing this work. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can join Indivisible. You can join Run for Something. You can join Vote Save America. These are the groups that are doing the good work of stopping the Trump administration in its tracks, changing politicians for the better, and winning the elections that we need to win. So do the work, guys. Talk to people in real life. I appreciate any support you can give me, whether it is the free kind, like liking and sharing and telling everybody how great my live streams are and how they should all check out my live streams and you know, be massive fans and stuff. If you can afford to do the financial kind of support, I appreciate that too. But you don't have to. I would much rather you guys put food on the table than send me a couple of nickels and dimes. But you can if you want to. I have a Patreon that you can find on my website, jaredberenstein.com. I have a store on my website, jaredberenstein.com. You can also send gifts on TikTok and Twitch and YouTube, I think. But again, you know, we're all suffering through this cost of living crisis that is being made worse by the Trump administration. If you have any questions that I was not able to get to, my DMs are open, and also you can email me through my website, jaredberenstein.com. My schedule is always going to be up on my website. That is my stand-up schedule for live shows. That is also my streaming schedule as well. My normal streaming schedule is Tuesday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. I often start earlier, and I often add a Monday because I really like doing these. And so, yeah, guys, just, you know, keep on doing the work and keep on coming out and asking questions. And, yeah, let's see if there's any final questions here. Jim says, so I guess you wouldn't want immigrant criminals deported out of our country. I do, Jim, but that's not what the Trump administration is doing. That's the reason why I'm so upset about what the Trump administration is doing, Jim. Would you like me to tell you what the Trump administration is actually doing? Because I will. Let's see here. The Beagles That Own Us says, I keep talking. I have brought my mother in law to earth. Oh, thank you so much, the Beagles. That makes me really happy to hear that. Lauren, thank you as well. I'm so glad I saved you from being divorced. TR says, Trump or Kamala? We got another Russian bot that they forgot to unplug. Yeah, Jim, still waiting for you to let's dig into this immigration thing, man, if you really want to. Let's see here. Mint Spring says, thought we were making progress on Drake. I appreciate that, Mint Spring, but yeah, you know, I've got certain secret code things that happen. When I see it, I'm like, all right, yeah. All right, did Jim get back to me yet? I really hope we see America remain a democracy in the future. I am genuinely worried for the U.S. I think you're right to be worried, Mint Spring. I really am. Dylan Barrera says, funny how if you don't agree, you're either a Russian bot or a racist. Never said that, Dylan. And you were doing a great job asking questions before, so I'm going to forgive that one. But yeah, man, let's please not straw man. You know, let's please not put words in my mouth. Let's please not say, you know, wrap up my argument, like everything I've been saying, in wrapping paper of lies and bullshit, please. If you have a question, ask it, my man. But yeah, I never said that if you disagree with me, you're a Russian bot. I never said that if you disagree with me, you're racist. All right, looks like, all right, Cash, I'm going to respond to that homogeny thing. Yep, someone forgot to unplug the bot again. Why are we asking about Kamala? The election is over, guys. Marcia, Florida trying to dumb down our children by putting 14-year-olds to work. Yeah, that should be concerning to everybody. Why is it that red states are trying to, bring back child labor? That should be concerning to everybody, right? Okay, Cash. So about the homogeneity of a country. Culture is not stagnant. And you can believe that the culture that you have needs to be protected at all costs. But no matter what you do, it is going to change. And there will be preservation societies. If you go to other countries, you can see people wearing the old clothes that they used to wear and respecting the old customs that people used to wear. There can be communities that try, that have a stranglehold on their culture, like the Amish or the Orthodox Jewish community. But if you're not doing that, if you're not part of one of those communities, which, by the way, you're free to do, like any human being can do that. Like, I have no problem with that whatsoever. But you can't force a country to do that when the population does not want to do that. The Amish, they let their kids go on a thing called Rumspringa, where they get to be part of regular society and see if they like it. And like 99% of the kids decide to go back to being Amish. That's fine. You're giving them the option to go out and explore something else, But yeah, you can't force a country to do that, especially a country that is literally a melting pot. Like, the whole fucking thing with being America is bring us you're tired, you're poor, you're weary, you're huddled masses yearning to be free. What are the best American foods? It is a mishmash of other countries' things. We have our own version of Chinese food. We have pizza, which is our own version of Italian food. We have burgers and hot dogs, which is our own version of German food. Fucking French fries, my man. So yeah, there's my thoughts on homogeneity. Dylan Barrera says, you said earlier if that the people who voted for Trump, it's because they like how he treats brown people. Dylan, were you listening, or are you just being a not nice person? Because that was part of a long list of me describing different motivations for people voting for Trump. I described good people who just got tricked and conned by propaganda. I described rich people who really like their tax cuts and don't give a shit of who gets hurt. Or I said you could be potentially a racist, and so they don't give a shit if Trump is fucking over their lives, so long as they're fucking over the lives of a brown person more. Did you not hear that, Dylan? Or did you hear that and you are choosing to ignore it because you want to paint me in a certain light? Dylan, I'm asking you in good faith. Because you have, in the past, asked some nice, substantive questions that were not dog whistles or just trying to be a jerk. Grace on Fire says, are you a political expert? Why would you be an authority on anything? I just know a lot about politics. I pay attention. I read the news. There you go. Jim says, and I don't know why anybody gives Biden any credit for anything. Well, because he did a lot of really great things, Jim, and his administration did a lot of really great things. So, I can understand if you didn't get that information because, again, the entire media environment, including mass media and social media, has been weaponized against the Democratic Party. So I can understand why you wouldn't see it. But I can tell you about all the great things the Biden administration did, if you want. But not today, because I am tired, and I've been doing this for an hour and a half, and I got things to do, everybody. It's all right. Thanks for being here, everybody. Have an excellent weekend. Come check me out again next week. Same bat time, same bat channels. Dylan Barrera says, did not hear that at all. Most of those options sound like you are painting in a certain light, though. Dylan, for somebody like me who pays attention to the news and can see all of the wildly illegal and unconstitutional and damaging things that the Trump administration is doing to the 99% of us, it is illogical to think that somebody who is well-informed and has good intentions is getting all the good information, So like the best group of that people, in my opinion, are the ones who just got suckered and conned, There are people who got born into a certain family in a certain community who are getting their news from certain sources and going to certain churches that there's no hope of them, regardless of how smart or independent or good-natured they are. There's no hope of them getting the correct information about what is going on in this country. And so, yeah, like I say 1,000 times on this live stream that Republicans do not have a monopoly on getting conned and getting tricked. There are plenty of people on the left who have misconceptions about the Democratic Party or the political process or voting in general. But yeah, if you think that is being too harsh on Republicans, then I apologize. But it's also accurate. So let's see here. Dylan Barrera says, sucker and con, what happened the last 4 years through Biden? Dylan, come back, because I don't mind talking about this stuff with you. It really does seem like you are asking good faith questions as opposed to, just being a troll. So come back next week and we can get into it some more. All right. Talk to you later, everybody. Have a good weekend. Do the work, do the self-care, do the work, and talk to people. All right. Bye-bye. Come back next week. Goodbye. Goodbye.